Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very exciting day today. The 31st day of May 2022, last day of May, and from tomorrow we into June. Well, right now let's take a very quick look at the weather. Well, there are some weather warnings at the moment as well, but it's 17 degrees and sunny. It was very gusty last night, yes, and very cold and windy as well. Let's see if we can see what those warnings are at the moment. So, it's saying that it's looking at the weather. So the current weather 18 degrees, it's gone up one, partly the sunny skies. The highs will be 21 and the humidity is 44%, which is down a little bit as well. So there you are. And there is also a severe warning in place as well, and that is for most of the regions. So the severe warning is damaging winds, which goes for Darling Downs, the Granite Belt, White Bay, Bennett, and southeast coast forecast district. So they were up to date on Australian Indian Radio. Right now, it's time to go to our news for today. Well, first of all, breaking news. Yes, Labor will be able to govern in its own right. They have secured that magic number of 76 seats.
We've got Labor up to 76, Coalition 57, 4 Greens and 12 others, 2 seats remain in doubt. The seat we've given away is Macnamara. Now this has been a very complex count. Labor leads on first preferences, the Greens second and the Liberals third. If the Greens or the Liberals are in third place, Labor wins, but if Labor drop to third, they're in danger of losing. Now, on the ordinary votes, Labor was about... What the Commission had to do was do some preliminary counts to exclude the 4 lower-placed candidates and then determine the order of these final 3. When they started to do that with the ordinary votes, Labor was 1,100 votes ahead of the Greens. Now, that lead has narrowed to about 400 in the progressive counting of postals and absence. But at the moment, they've counted 4,500 absence, and the Greens made up 400 votes, and there's only 1,000 left. They counted 3,000 declaration votes, and the Greens have made up 150. And there's only 2,000 of those left at maximum, and there's some postals to come, which the Greens won't make up any further ground. So at most, there's only about 2,000 votes left, at most. And the Greens still need to make up 400 votes on Labor, and there just aren't enough votes left for them to do that. So we've been happy at this stage. We're confident that we can call that Labor will win Macnamara because Josh Burns isn't going to drop below the Greens during the distribution of preferences. There's some more counting to come, but that's just not going to turn around at this stage. So we've called Macnamara for the Labor Party. The 2 other seats then that remain in doubt is Gilmore on the south coast of New South Wales, where Andrew Constance, the former Transport Minister in New South Wales, is trying to move to federal parliament. Fiona Phillips is the Labor candidate. What's happened today is a 210-vote lead for the Liberals at the start of the day is now 140 votes behind. Labor's on 50.1, 2.5% swing. The absence and the pre-poll absence have been favouring Labor heavily, and that's most of what votes to come. So at the moment, Labor's moved ahead today, and if that trend continues, we'll probably stay ahead. But it's only 140 votes at this stage. And the other seat, which has been trending against Labor, it has narrowed today. And if you look at the 2-party preferred here, Michael Sukkar, the former Assistant Treasurer, he's on 50.3. That has narrowed to about 600, down from about 850 during the day. But the trend hasn't been strong enough, I think, to suggest that Labor can get ahead in this seat. So at the moment, I think this one will probably stay with the Liberal Party, and it looks like Gilmore is still a chance for Labor to get to 77, but we've been prepared to call Macnamara at this stage for the Labor Party, and Josh Burns has been re-elected.
Just on Macnamara, Anthony, it's 9 days since election night. This is tells you something about how close this race has been, and how close the Greens have come to getting what would have been a 5th seat in Parliament. So it's potentially one to watch in the future as well.
Well, and what's happening is 10 years ago, the Greens were doing well in very safe Labor seats like Wills and Cooper, Melbourne. And what's happened since then is that the Liberals changed their attitudes on preferences and stopped directing preferences to the Greens, which made it much harder for the Greens to win those seats unless they get close to well over 40% in their own right. And in fact, they put their effort into some more marginal seats like Griffith and Brisbane and Ryan and Macnamara, which are more marginal, and they only have to get ahead of the Labor Party in the mid-20s to win. And that's what nearly happened in McNamara and did happen in Brisbane and Griffith and Ryan. So it's been a change of strategy, and the Greens at this election have gained 3 seats in Brisbane, 2 of them from the LNP and 1 of them from the Labor Party. So the Greens are increasingly doing well. You can look at other seats they could win in the future. They've done very well in Richmond on the north coast of New South Wales. They hold one of the state seats in that part of town. So you'd expect that seat and McNamara would be the 2 seats that come the next election. You'll see the Greens going very strongly on.
And Anthony, while Labor now have 76 seats in the parliament, presumably they'll really be hoping to get one of those 2, Deakin or Gilmore, because while 76 is a majority, a speaker still needs to be appointed, and that, you know, if it's coming from Labor's numbers, would make the numbers very tight.
I'm certain that Anthony Albanese will be insisting that his Leader of the House treat the Parliament like they are in a minority, and they could always lose a member down the track. He was Leader of the House during the Gillard government when the member for DeBell, Shane Thompson I think his name was, ran into problems and caused them great grief in a parliament that was very finely aligned. So the sensible thing for the government to do would be to treat the crossbench with respect, because you're going to have to live with them and potentially might be forced to deal with them in the future. So if they...
Yes, you might be having to deal with them in the future. And of course, right now, let's move over to the coalition and the Liberals first. So the Liberals have elected Peter Dutton as the leader.
From the ruins of defeat, Peter Dutton emerges unopposed as Liberal leader. His attitude immediate.
To clean up Labor's mess in 3 years' time. They are going to be a bad government. There's no doubt in my mind.
The coalition hard man's deputy, regional Liberal MP Susan Lee, quick to acknowledge where their work is needed most.
My message to the women of Australia is, we hear you, we heard you, and we are determined to earn back your trust and your faith.
The man who lost it commending the new leadership team.
Deeply committed Australians to both the Liberal cause and, of course, the cause of the nation.
But Scott Morrison's successor, a former policeman, indicating he'll back a strong anti-corruption watchdog.
I'm a strong supporter of the ICAC. I believe in transparency, and I always have.
Mr Morrison sledged ICAC as a kangaroo court, but matters of integrity helped sweep Teal independents to power, knocking out many moderate Liberals from their inner city seats.
I commend the motion to the House.
Peter Dutton accepting he was wrong to walk out on the historic apology to the stolen generations 14 years ago.
I made a mistake in relation to the apology. At the time, I believed that the apology should be given when the problems were resolved, and the problems are not resolved.
A changing of the guard too in the Nationals party room. David Littleproud becoming leader of the junior coalition party, ousting Barnaby Joyce, who City Liberals blame for suppressing their vote.
It's using common sense and being in the sensible centre. That's where you win elections, not chasing extremities.
Well, I suppose you think I'm sad. Not really.
With former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg among those lost to the Teals, Peter Dutton was the Liberals' only real option. He comes to the job a well-known political figure, but the tough man public persona he's long projected needs some adjustment, his colleagues say. As for the man himself, he says it's not a question of being different, but being better understood.
Being better understood. Well, right now, let's take a look at what the decisions that Peter Dutton had to make and what are his plans for the future.
Look, I've had tough jobs in government. I was a Home Affairs Minister. We deported something like 6,000 people who had committed sexual offences against women and children, murderers, people that had committed serious crimes otherwise. And as Defence Minister, I'd made tough decisions. And when you're up talking about those issues, it's pretty hard to crack into a smile or a joke or whatever. So people see you through the grabs on television, in the nightly news as a serious character. In this portfolio, or in this job now, I have the opportunity to talk more broadly about issues which are important to our country. I want to do a lot for families. I want to do a lot for small businesses, for those micro businesses, people that have really been hurting over the course of COVID. I want to grow Australian jobs and manufacturing, and there's a lot that's going to happen over the next 3 years. In terms of the economy, the international economic headwinds are going to be very significant. So there will be many debates that I can show the complete character of who I am, and I want people to make judgments on what they see, not what they, believe from some of the media interpretation or some of the online, trolling and commentary.
Well, some of the interpretation came from things from your past, the joke on open mic about the Pacific Islands and the rising water levels, boycotting the national apology, suggesting the Biloela family had anchor babies, all of those things, and I know you've addressed some of them in the past, but that is adding to the view that people have formed about you.
Well, Lisa, I've been in public life for 20 years, and as I say, I've had those tough jobs, but I've also been able to, make decisions in the immigration space, for example. Hundreds of cases, literally, where I acted compassionately on the facts, I looked at particular family circumstances, and I was able to grant those people visas. And I get letters from kids and from families who are grateful, the Yazidi women that we brought in, who were being, slaughtered, raped, enslaved by ISIL. We went in and deliberately sought those women out. They're now wonderful Australians. So the Syrians that we brought in, the people that we lifted out of Afghanistan, in over 4,000 people, and in some cases you have to make tough calls. I mean, that's you'll see that in this government as well. The people smugglers package up all of the comments that we make as ministers. They're evil people. They trade in sex slaves, they trade in gun parts, in all sorts of commodities, otherwise illicit drugs and human beings. And I didn't want to see people drowning at sea, and I'd made tough decisions in relation to that. I've made some poor taste jokes like any person over the years, and I've apologised for that. I'm as human and as frail as anybody else, and there are decisions that I've made that I think have been tough, but in our country's best interests.
Tough decisions, but in the best interest of the country. That's the call of the job. So that comes with that. You have to handle those things in that manner. And some of the things that he mentioned, that he does apologize for sometimes making some bad jokes, which didn't go quite well with people or didn't go the right way, wasn't politically correct. Well, right now, as we know, yesterday we had the Queensland Multicultural Council and Multicultural Australia and Griffith University all coming together to kick off our Reconciliation Week. Here's a glimpse of what happened in New South Wales.
I love this saltwater freshwater concert and get this gathering, because we get to meet family what we haven't seen for a long time. And with this COVID, we haven't been together for a long time. So getting back to linking with our sisters and brothers and children that we haven't seen for the last 2 years, and the bushfire and the rain, and we've got a beautiful day today. God, the ancestors blessed us with a beautiful day. So, yes, I love it. I'm very proud to be Indigenous, and I'm very proud to be here. It's important for the young ones to listen. It's important for the landowners to learn. And it's important for us to give knowledge and understanding back to people on country, landowners, young generation, and one day hopefully, we enjoy this country, because we all got something in common. We're walking on Mother Earth, and she's only one. United we stand, but divided we fall.
I found it amazing to perform here on my mother's country and my grandmother's country. It's just given me something that I can connect to, and it's just been amazing to see family. That's been the most fun thing.
I haven't had the opportunity to actually find out where I come from because of the trauma that had been inflicted upon my family, and so I'm still trying to navigate my way around so that I can, for my nephews who are in my care, they have the opportunity to learn something that I didn't at their age. I can't go back, but what I can do is go forward and allow these kids to know that they have somebody to look up to. I'm going to...
That is a wonderful thing to see that, as she mentioned, I can't go back, but I can always move forward. Yes, yes, we can. And of course, yesterday we had a similar theme at the Queensland Parliament House at a function hosted by Queensland Multicultural Council, Multicultural Australia and Griffith University. Well, right now, moving on, Queensland Government is going to buy back some of the railroad sites.
Asset sales under Anna Bligh caused fury in central Queensland and ultimately cost the Premier her job. The Rockhampton Rail Yard site was among $15 billion worth of state assets sold off under Labor in 2010. Now, more than a decade on, it's back in state hands.
So it's a great day for Rockhampton, and we said we were going to do it, and we have delivered on our election commitment.
Our town really suffered from with the closure of the yard.
It's understood to have cost the Palaszczuk government $21 million to buy the site back from Aurizon.
It's going to be jobs, jobs and more jobs for this region.
While the Premier was keen to talk up employment in regional Queensland, she was coy when it came to questions about granting approvals to expand New Acland's coal mine on the Darling Downs. It's seen hundreds of jobs lost as the project stalled. The state's Coordinator General has now paved the way for Stage 3 of the mine near Oakey to go ahead, but it's still subject to further approvals.
Then it's stepping through with the various ministers to get the mining lease and the water licence and those things after that. So, we're positive. We're hopeful to see that process move in a really good, timely manner.
The government is working through those issues, the different departments, and of course normal processes will be followed just as they are with any other application.
But it's now a tricky political problem for the Premier after voters deserted the major parties for the Greens in inner-city Brisbane seats at the federal election.
This just flies in the face of what people have been very vocal about what they want to see, and what they want to see is no new coal and gas operations across the country.
We know that a progressive Labor government can do both. We look at jobs across all industries, but also to jobs in renewables.
Rachel Rieger, ABC News, Brisbane.
Of course, when it comes to jobs, you need to look in all different sectors. Well, talking about jobs, Sydney train dispute is costing taxpayers $20 million a month.
The government's fight with the rail union has been public, protracted and chaotic.
Minister Elliott says this is close to agreement. Two other ministers said there's a line in the sand here we will not cross.
So now a parliamentary committee has called on the bureaucrats to explain.
Where is this dispute up to?
We're right down to the pointy end of decision being required.
One contentious issue has been the new inner-city fleet. The union wants the trains modified because of safety concerns. The fleet was supposed to start operating in 2019, but the trains are currently being stored. That's costing up to $20 million a month.
The cost of delay, contractual implications, commitments under the contracts is much bigger than the actual cost of changes to the train sets themselves.
So all this disputation, all this carrying on, is actually adding to the cost, more than the cost of actually getting on and fixing these carriages. Is that
yes.
The department will soon put its submission to Cabinet, which will include the option of making the changes. It won't say how much that'll cost.
These are world-class trains for the people of our state, and I want them on the tracks. Now, if that means the government has to give a bit, fine.
While one messy dispute seems to be close to resolution, another problem plaguing the government is set to continue. The Premier says he wants the city's tolling system to be fairer, yet there will be no reform before next year's state election.
This is a complicated negotiation that would occur between Treasury and the motorway operators.
The opposition is gearing up for tolls to be a prominent issue in the lead-up to the March election. Ashley Raper, ABC.
And of course, that will be a major issue there. Well, right now, time to go overseas. First of all, China is trying to get into the Pacific and what's happening there.
Talk loudly and carry a big stick. Wang Yi's carving a path through the Pacific on his 8-nation tour, determined to cement China's commercial, security and strategic ties, while also assuring the West it has nothing to fear.
My advice to these people is don't be too anxious and don't be too nervous.
Today he sat down for a virtual meeting with 10 Pacific Island foreign ministers. On the table, a sweeping regional agreement first leaked last week, which would tie China and the Pacific together across trade, development, policing and cybersecurity.
The common development and prosperity of China and developing countries will only mean greater harmony, greater progress and greater justice across the whole world.
But the proposed agreement is contentious, with Pacific leaders warning the region could be sucked into a new Cold War.
We are concerned about the potential extent to which the nature of those agreements could extend across the whole of the Pacific.
And after today's meeting, Fiji's Prime Minister delicately hinted the agreement has been put aside, at least for now.
As always, we put consensus first among our countries throughout any discussion on new regional agreements.
China's ambassador confirming after his foreign minister left the room that it had been shelved, while Beijing tries to convince the doubters.
Of course, there are some concerns on some specific issues. And we have agreed that these two documents will be discussed afterwards.
Strategic jousting is unavoidable in the current era, with Western powers trying to compete against an increasingly authoritarian and ambitious China. Pacific Island countries are happy to leverage that when they can, but they're also urging the bigger players not to forget about the most existential threats.
We all know plenty of eyes have been on Suva during this visit. I hope we also know that geopolitical point scoring means less than little to anyone whose community is slipping beneath the rising seas.
And that will require cooperation, not just competition. Stephen.
That is what will be required. So that's from Fiji. Right now, let's go to India with our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and much more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the 89th episode of his Mann Ki Baat program on May 29, 2022. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked about his Japan visit and expressed concern over garbage dumps in Kedarnath in the 89th episode of his monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat. This radio address comes at a time when Modi completed 8 years in office on May 26th. Modi shared an inspiring story from Andhra Pradesh and talked about meeting inspirational people on his Japan visit. He spoke about the Yoga for Humanity theme for Yoga Day. On 21st June, the world will mark Yoga Day. The theme this year will be Yoga for Humanity. I urge everyone to be a part of the Yoga Day and make yoga part of your daily lifestyle, said Modi. Speaking on the global COVID-19 situation, he said that COVID-19 situation in the world is better now because of enhanced vaccination coverage. People are coming out in large numbers. Expressing concern over garbage dumps in Kedarnath, Modi said devotees in Kedarnath are upset over litter spread by some pilgrims. It is not right that we go to a holy pilgrimage and find heaps of litter there. India-Bangladesh train services resume after 2 years. Passenger train services Maitri Express and Bandhan Express between Bangladesh and India resumed on May 29, 2 years after it was paused due to the COVID-19 outbreak, according to Bangladesh railway officials. The Maitri Express train service between Dhaka and Kolkata resumed from Dhaka Cantonment Railway Station on May 29th. The train departed from Dhaka Cantonment Railway Station with 165 passengers on board to Kolkata. It will make its return voyage on May 30th and reach Dhaka, a Bangladesh railway spokesperson said. He added that the expected journey time was about 8 hours. Dhirendranath Majumdar, the Director General of Bangladesh Railways, said that from now on, train would run 5 days a week. It did not draw expected number of passengers on the first day, apparently because the COVID-19 situation was yet to be wiped out completely. Officials said the 465-seat train used to carry around 300 passengers on an average. Meanwhile, another train service, Bandhan Express, which runs between Bangladesh's southwestern Khulna and Kolkata route, reached Bangladesh, resuming its service after 2 years of halt, they said. Bandhan Express runs 2 days a week. Both the trains have air-conditioned chair cars and executive class compartments. The third service, Mithali Express, is expected to be launched on June 1st to run between West Bengal's northern New Jalpaiguri and Dhaka, particularly as a tourist train expected to reach Bangladeshis to Darjeeling Hills and Duars Forest and Tea Gardens. Indian state of Jharkhand to get WHO award for tobacco control. Recognizing its efforts in controlling tobacco consumption, the World Health Organization has selected the Indian state of Jharkhand for the World No Tobacco Day Award 2022, an official said on May 29th. State Tobacco Control Cell of the Health Department will receive the award on the occasion of World No Tobacco Day in New Delhi on May 31st. NTCP was launched in Jharkhand in 2012 when the tobacco prevalence rate in the state was 51.1%, of which 48% were smokeless users, according to the Global Adult Tobacco Survey GATS-1 report. Indian state of Tamil Nadu has emerged as a #1 vacation spot in the latest India tourism rankings. A proud moment for the Indian state of Tamil Nadu for topping in India vacation arrivals in 2020 as per the India Tourism Statistics 2021 printed by the Union Ministry of Tourism. The state has a 22.9% share of whole vacationer visits in 2020 and has been ranked primary in-home vacationer visit in 2020 with over 140 million guests. Regarding international vacation arrivals, the state ranks second, marginally behind Maharashtra state. Tamil Nadu acquired 1.23 million and Maharashtra 1.62 million guests. It confirmed that Bangladesh, USA, UK have been the highest supply markets, cumulatively contributing to 45% of international vacationer arrivals in India. The Chennai Worldwide Airport was the gateway for 6% of the international vacationers. Of all the international vacationers, 52% from Sri Lanka, 22.5% from Singapore, 20.4% from Malaysia, 18.8% from France and 16.8% from South Korea opted for Chennai as their most popular port of entry. Tamil Nadu is among the high 5 states as far as the entire variety of rooms in categorized motels depicting the power of tourism infrastructure within the state is concerned. Moreover, the group of monuments at Mamallapuram, one of the many 5 UNESCO World Heritage websites within the state, ranked because the second hottest centrally protected ticketed ASI monument amongst home vacationers and 5th amongst international vacationers. Various key initiatives have been taken by the state authorities together with a vacation spot improvement scheme geared towards a holistic improvement of locations to boost the customer expertise, by which lesser identified locations like Koli Hills, Javadu Hills, Yelagiri are being developed as journey and eco-camping websites. Goanese of Indian Ancestry Association organized the Indian Heritage Exposition from May 27 to 31st, 2022. As part of the Heritage Month celebrations, Goanese of Indian Ancestry Association, in association with the High Commission of India to Guyana, has organized the Indian Heritage Exposition from 27 to 31st of May 2022 at the Texel American University, Lot 2442, Plantation, Providence, Georgetown, depicting the important features of the historical Indian presence in Guyana over the last 180 years. The event is open to all the general public free of cost. The expo is about reconnecting with Indian culture with the goal of continuing the rebuilding of the cultural identity of Indo-Guyanese. Supporting the initiative, the High Commissioner of India, Dr. K.J. Srinivasa, stated that this exposition gives the visitors a chance to be informed about the Indian diaspora in Guyana, appreciate the country's richly diverse culture, and encourages them to embrace their history. This year being the 75th year of Indian independence, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the High Commission will be organizing many other events in the near future. The Indian Meteorological Department has announced that the monsoon has arrived 3 days ahead of time in Kerala state. The southwest monsoon has arrived in Kerala state 3 days ahead of its usual schedule of June 1st. The Indian Meteorological Department said on May 29th, its progress could be slow in the initial days. This was the third announcement by the Weather Office regarding the onset of the June to September season that is vital for India's autumn harvest besides bringing rain relief from the high summer temperatures. On May 14th, the department predicted that monsoon was likely to make landfall over Kerala on May 27th, 5 days ahead of normal onset date. Earlier it was said that there could be a delay of 2 to 3 days due to a weakening of southwesterly winds. Its extended range forecast also indicated weak rainfall over most of the country except northeast India from June 2nd to 8th. A long dry spell and severe heat waves over northwest and central India in March through May affected the wheat harvest in many parts, fueling a rise in food prices. The monsoon is crucial for summer crops as 60% of the country's cultivated area depends on rains. 2 Indians among 21 elevated to the rank of Cardinal by Pope Francis. 2 Indian churchmen were among 21 who will be elevated by Pope Francis to the rank of Cardinal in a ceremony at the Vatican in August. It was announced on May 29th. The 2 cardinals from India are Archbishop Philip Neri Antonio Sebastião de Rosario Ferrao, Archbishop of Goa and Damao, India, and Archbishop Anthony Pula, the Archbishop de Hyderabad, the official Vatican news reported. At the conclusion of Regina Coeli on May 29, Pope Francis said that on August 27th he will hold a consistory for the creation of new cardinals. He also said that he will meet on August 29th and 30th with all the cardinals to reflect on the new apostolic constitution, predicate evangelism. 8 of the newly named cardinals are from Europe, 6 from Asia, 2 from Africa, 1 from North America and 4 from Central and Latin America. The College of Cardinals currently consists of 208 cardinals, of whom 117 are electors and 91 are non-electors. As of 27th August, the number will grow to 229 cardinals, of whom 131 will be electors. The trailer of the much-awaited Amir Khan starrer Lal Singh Chaddha was unveiled on May 29th at the IPL 2022 finale. Take a look. Taking to Twitter.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this segment. And right now, moving on, don't forget that tomorrow we'll have the real estate update with Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. Well, from right now, it's goodbye from us from this segment. We'll see you all back here tomorrow for the 2 segments, the news segment and, of course, the real estate update with Usha Chandra. Until then, it's goodbye from us.